Hey everyone, let's talk about why Bitcoin, the real Bitcoin, which is the ticker symbol BTC, as in Bitcoin, the first three consonants of the word Bitcoin, why Bitcoin BTC will be the only cryptocurrency left standing, or the only one that matters in the long term. Okay, so here's what is important to understand, which is in the long term, any sort of protocol that involves interoperability or people or computers working with each other there's a massive benefit for everybody speaking or being on the same protocol or being on the same platform. Okay, so in the case of the internet, early in the internet, there was a few different competing protocols, but eventually most people were using what's called TCP/IP. TCP/IP is the protocol that runs the internet. And it has been the protocol that runs the internet for many decades. So while everything else about the internet has changed and upgraded, the core protocol that the whole internet runs on, which is just TCP/IP, has not changed. It's been upgraded, but the internet has not moved to a different protocol. The reason for that is there's a huge benefit for everybody being on the same page, singing from the same song sheet, and being interoperable with each other. And the same is true on Bitcoin, which the way the internet is an internet of information, Bitcoin is sort of an internet of value. It's an internet of the ability to exchange, instead of information like the internet, it's the ability to exchange value anywhere in the world in a way that nobody can stop. So everything in the world of exchanging information is trying to get on the same page and the same protocols because it makes it interoperable. And the same is true for information. So the more people that use a specific cryptocurrency, the more other people want to use that same cryptocurrency because it means they can interact with more people. So the more people use something, the more people want to use that thing, and the more people who want to use that thing, the more it incentivizes other people to use that same thing. So it's the same reason that after trying a lot of different precious metals prior to the advent of the internet, everybody sort of landed on gold. Gold was the scarcest metal that had monetary properties. And so while some people think, silver is going to make a comeback one day, which is really ridiculous because the only reason silver had any monetary use was because gold was not divisible to small enough units to make, to pay for a cup of coffee because it cost 1 grain of gold or something like that. So silver only had monetary use for parts of the world that did not have access to gold, or for which gold could not be sufficiently divisible into silver. But eventually, gold completely demonetized silver. Silver has very little monetary properties now. Nobody really uses or buys or stores silver for monetary value. And essentially 100% of that has shifted to gold. So the value of gold vastly surpasses the value of silver. And almost nobody's, buying silver for investment purposes, at least if they understand how monetary systems work or how everything seems to settle on a single commodity. So the same is true in cryptocurrencies, that there is not a benefit to being on the second or third or fourth largest cryptocurrency unless it does something radically better than Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, because layer 2 solutions like the Lightning Network, any sort of aspect that Bitcoin is not optimized for already, it can be made to be optimal with additional solutions on top of it, such as the Bitcoin Lightning Network for payments. So as a result of that, this network, the cryptocurrency network, should essentially settle on a single cryptocurrency that everybody agrees to use, because there's really no benefit to having more than one. And the original, the most secure, the most decentralized, the most universally accepted, widely distributed, every single aspect, just like with TCP/IP with the internet, single thing would point to Bitcoin being really the only cryptocurrency that stores value long term. So over time, everything else, certainly all the meme coins of Dogecoin and Shiba Inu and all the meme coins will fall by the wayside. I believe Bitcoin Cash, which is the ticker symbol BCH, which was a competitor to Bitcoin at one point and now trades at less than 1% of the value of Bitcoin. I believe that will fall by the wayside. Litecoin, which was another competitor, has already fallen by the wayside. All of these will fall by the wayside because none of them are even a tiny fraction as secure as Bitcoin, as decentralized as Bitcoin. And the huge benefit of Bitcoin is We don't know who invented it. The inventor, the person who started Bitcoin, Satoshi Nakamoto, walked away. So over time, Bitcoin will demonetize all of the other cryptocurrencies. Now, there will still be smart contract platforms like Ethereum or Solana or things like that, but those are not attempting to be cryptocurrencies. Those use cryptography for something called smart contracts. And I've covered that in other videos, so I won't cover it here. But the short take is things like Ethereum and Solana are not trying to be cryptocurrencies. They're trying to be smart contract platforms, which is something different. So Bitcoin already dominates the world of cryptocurrencies. And my prediction would be that that domination would radically increase to the point where it becomes essentially all other cryptocurrencies combined become essentially irrelevant as compared to Bitcoin. So if you're wondering, should you diversify outside of Bitcoin, I would say no. Maybe very early in the lifespan of Bitcoin, in the first few years, there was arguments to be made that there might be some other technology, but at this point, we're probably more than a decade past the point at which, if there was going to be a real competitor to Bitcoin, it would have emerged. And at this point, there's just no benefit to having alternatives out there or to transact with something that is less secure, less decentralized, or fewer people use. Additionally, if you're wondering, well, what about like MySpace? There was MySpace and then there was Facebook. A big difference with monetary networks is you have to exchange value for the new network. When people moved from MySpace to Facebook, it didn't cost them anything. They could have an account on both. So imagine if Facebook had come on the scene and had tried to compete with MySpace, but in order to get an account on Facebook, you had to sell all of your MySpace, friends, MySpace friends, whatever they were called back then. That would have been a much more painful switching process, because you would have had to actually exchange value to get on the Facebook platform. So with social media and things like that, it doesn't work that way. You can have an account on both, which means there's no cost to trying and sampling a bunch of different social networks, and may the best one win. In the case of Bitcoin, if people are going to switch to a new monetary network, there is a very real cost, which means they have to sell the old monetary network, meaning they have to sell Bitcoin to buy into some new monetary network, which makes it extraordinarily unlikely that anything will ever compete with Bitcoin. Additionally, none of the networks that got replaced by others, like MySpace with Facebook, were anywhere close to the size and scale that Bitcoin is. So, MySpace was not a $1.2 or $1.3 trillion network of value when Facebook came along. It was essentially a tiny speck by comparison. So once networks get as big as Bitcoin, I think Michael Saylor, the head of MicroStrategy, has some sort of threshold that once a network contains more than $100 billion of value, I think the number he uses is 100 billion, the probability that it will become obsolete by some new network becomes, essentially goes to zero. It's virtually impossible, which means all the big networks where one network has replaced another, like Facebook replacing MySpace, was long before MySpace got anywhere to the size and scale of even 1/10 of where Bitcoin is right now. So anyway, in the long term, just like everybody settles on a single precious metal as the precious metal store of value, which is gold, and essentially if you have any precious metal that's not gold, they will all eventually go to their utility value, not their monetary value, because their monetary value will eventually go to zero, other than gold. And I would argue maybe even gold goes to zero because we have Bitcoin now. The same way other cryptocurrencies against Bitcoin will slowly march towards zero, and eventually all of the value that is stored in those other current cryptocurrencies, like Bitcoin Cash, like Litecoin, like if you even call them cryptocurrencies, like Dogecoin or Shiba Inu, those will all eventually go to zero as their value is subsumed into Bitcoin, and then nobody will care about anything except what everybody else is already using, which will be Bitcoin. So this is not a multiple horses win the race. This is not, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and Royal Crown Cola. There are not two winners in the world of cryptocurrency. There are not three winners in the world of cryptocurrency. There will eventually be one single winner in the world of cryptocurrency, and that will be Bitcoin, BTC, and essentially everything else will become irrelevant in the category of cryptocurrency. Again, I have no idea what's going to play out on the smart contract side with things like Ethereum and Solana and others, but those are not attempting to be cryptocurrencies. their use case is completely different and therefore not relevant to the discussion here. So anyway, and I do not own any of those because it's just completely unpredictable and unknown, what will happen with those smart contract platforms, and the probability, the upside versus downside is not in your favor with attempting to bet on any of those. So anyway, everything will eventually settle. It already has settled on Bitcoin, but the other stuff will just slowly go away as Bitcoin sucks all the value and becomes the new monetary system of the world, with the payment network being the Lightning Network, the Bitcoin Lightning Network that went live on Coinbase over the last few days and on my account today. So again, as always, hope it helps. Let me know if there's other topics you'd like me to cover.